welcome to the C-Suite Spot again. I'm delighted today to get the chance to interview Lee Harper. Lee is Managing Director of the PH Group, and he joined the group about 26 years ago as a sales rep and has worked his way up through the business to his current leadership role. We had the pleasure of working with Lee last year to help him optimize his customer engagement, and I was personally witness to his energetic and inclusive leadership style. It's been a highly challenging time, as we all know, but Lee is a true entrepreneur and a visionary, and he's passionate about helping his customers professionalize and succeed. Welcome, Lee.
Hello, Rob. Thank you for such a good introduction. I feel like I sound about 300% better than I ever imagined, so thank you.
No, you don't. That's called the imposter syndrome, Lee. Don't. We all have that. But I really wanted to, as you know, the format of this is about asking you about 5 questions. The first one really, Lee, is tell us a bit more about the PH Group and what your vision is for the sector you work in.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It is actually common that I tell people personally what I do, and a lot of people don't really know our sector really exists. We are a distributor and seller of professional hair care products. It is a niche sector. It has very limited number of customers, but it is a market that really motivates me and motivates us. Obviously, having been in the market for 20 years, it's something that I love. As far as our history, like so many industries, we originate from sort of selling many products to many different customers, and it was always in our sort of DNA that we would like to do one thing very well, and in the company's history, we have sort of worked to do less and less, which you could argue sounds the opposite of what a lot of businesses might wish to do. But we get a kick out of now really just selling one brand, and we like to try to offer a lot of specialization and expertise. So our goal really today is to develop and nurture customers, or find customers who really feel like they could not do without us. That is our goal and vision as an organization. Now, we know that there are customers that are motivated by other things like price or brand association or even advertising, but it is really our goal to trade on a very emotional basis with people, and to try and focus on the fact that we are just doing one thing as well as we possibly can.
Sorry, Lee, that's really interesting. And I think, given that positioning that you have for your company, I guess it's been very difficult to deal with the impact to the sector. It feels like an emotionally engaging sector. How has the coronavirus impacted it?
Well, I think it's common knowledge that the personal care industries have been significantly impacted by the virus. It's there's a strong requirement not to be close to people. There is a strong message not to touch people, or to minimize the amount of physical interaction that we have with people. And this really has ultimately led to our industry, which is the professional hairdresser. They have been closed, I think it's about 230 days within the last 365 days. So it's almost 2/3 to the day, 2/3 of the last trading year. Our customers have been specifically asked to close and not to trade. So you can imagine, it's been, I think the most positive of individuals will have found it very difficult to find positives in that situation. And I think what I've seen is that our industry, the agenda has been about surviving, about coming out the other end. Are we still going to be in business? will we last? Will our staff stay, within the business? And that's just dominated the agenda. So yeah, I personally feel that we've been impacted significantly.
Mm.
And most interesting for me is, as an observer of our customers, the question that has been handed to everyone is, what happens if you give an entire industry a significant amount of time or free time? And I think that's been as horrific as it is to not be able to trade. As a social experiment, looking at what people do when they've been handed this free time is actually very, very interesting. Even myself and our staff, and I think the way that business owners react has been very, very different. Some are super productive, investing in training, investing in changes within their business, improving operations. And then others are on the other end of the spectrum, where they are demotivated, struggle to communicate with their staff, have struggled to keep communicating with their customers. And I've seen all parts of the spectrum there.
I think that's a really interesting summary, because I think this concept of having the freedom to look at the future, to spend time looking at the strategy, it isn't for everyone.
No.
I found a lot of people have missed being in the trenches, being in the action rather than the thinking about the future. But as a leader, and it comes on to my next question, Lee, as a leader, this has, I guess, forced challenges on you that you haven't experienced before. And there was a term that was used at the beginning of the lockdown. There's been no playbook for this. I'm fascinated to know how it's impacted the PH group in terms of, and what actions you've taken and found yourself taking to try and combat the challenges.
Yeah, it is challenging. I won't lie and say, we had everything mapped out. There has been no sort of close situation to this, so it's very difficult. I mean, for me personally, the biggest challenge or frustration, I'm not sure really how you describe it, but most wrenching for me was the process of, we've effectively had to evacuate our staff from the business. And I think that for any business owner, there is no positive way of telling your staff, we don't need you, or we can't afford you, or you have to stay away. And, I think that the process of having to send a message to more or less our entire staff, you have to stay away, or we have to put you on furlough, that's been really tough. Never in our history have we been in a situation where we've asked our staff, some of which have been with us the entire 20-year history plus of our company, to stay away is just very alien. And, I think that seeing some of our staff interpret that as rejection, or that they're not valued, is heartbreaking. It's really the last thing we would want to do. And unfortunately, the main support for businesses like ours is the furlough scheme, and we are required legally to say to our employees on furlough, you cannot carry out any work for the company. And I've found that some of our staff have taken that very personally. And actually, when you reflect on it, it's hard not to take it any other way but personally. But I think it's been quite divisive for a lot of businesses who previously have always tried to be very inclusive to staff, to then have to kind of effectively, send your staff away. So for me, that's definitely been one of the biggest challenges. The other challenges, I think, are more obvious. We've had a drop in revenue of somewhere around 85% for the entire time of the pandemic. So there are financial challenges, there are practical challenges. But I think isolating your employees, for me, as what we felt was a very inclusive company, has been a very difficult challenge.
Look, I mean, that's really honest and transparent the way you talk through that. I mean, I know you a bit, and I think your style has always been inclusive and people focused. You know, you blend humor with business. And how's it affected you the last 12 months? You know, how how have you coped?
Yeah, well, that's a tough question, because I have to analyze myself, which is always quite difficult. I think that for human beings, we're not necessarily our best critics, but I would say I've handled it as best as I possibly can. I have tried to find life experience in the challenge, to try to see if there's opportunity to broaden my set of experiences. You know, I've had to do things that I've never had to do before, and always I would try to tackle or approach those with some positivity, even when they're negative tasks. I think it's been a exercise in balancing your emotions. I have tried more than I've ever had to try before to be very disciplined about my responses. And what I mean is, in the face of adversity or pressure, there's a tendency, I think, to respond quickly. And that may not be I don't think that's the best thing to do ever. And I think in the last year, more than ever, I've tried to insert, 4 hours, 5 hours, or even a day or 24 hours. I've tried to insert time before making responses to staff and to clients and to suppliers, because emotions have been running high for all of us. And so I think the discipline to not respond emotionally has been probably the biggest personal challenge to myself. I would add, I've been very fortunate to have a fellow director sort of alongside me in the company. And the ability, if there's any business owners out there or leaders that are completely solo or on their own, I know, Rob, you at Vision Eyes have at least one other sort of partner to bounce off. And I think anyone who is on their own, like truly on their own in a small business, I take a great deal of sympathy, because I think that's really tough. I'm fortunate to have other people, also include my father, who founded this company sort of over 30 years ago. So although he's retired, he's been an invaluable source of just discussions, or to be able to talk and chew over a problem. So I think I've coped an awful lot better, because I've got some very very good people around me that I can access. And I think if you are really on your own as a manager or a business owner, that's really tough.
Oh, look, I mean, I think it's really honest of you to share that. And the reason I asked that question is I think people are genuinely interested in how people are managing on a personal front. And, given the challenges of the revenue, your sector in particular has been hit harder, like the, hospitality sector. And I think it will be useful for people to hear that. I mean, from my perspective, I think the stuff you can interact with on LinkedIn has helped. I do think that platform has been a useful way of sharing experiences. But I appreciate your honesty on that question. Let's finish on hopefully a more forward-thinking, positive view. But I don't want to preempt the question. Where do you see the next sort of 6 to 12 months going, Lee? Let's talk post-lockdown, and hopefully we'll get to that stage soon. Where do you see the market moving in the future?
Well, I don't know. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball. I think that one of the most important lessons to take into the next 6 months is the ability to have an open mind, and the ability to adapt. I think is going to be really critical. I think if you're somebody that doesn't like uncertainty, I think you'll really struggle. So, for me personally, I feel like the ability to keep an open mind and be flexible is going to be called for more than ever. I think the next 6 months is really, nobody knows what it's going to look like, if we're going to recover quickly, if we're going to be in any kind of sort of national recession of any level. I think having an open mind and sort of, I think that's the number one important thing here. I think that we're going to be probably thrown challenges. We're going to continue to be all thrown challenges that we are not aware of. So I think that the number one thing for me is the importance of not to sort of expect any guarantees, or I think it's going to be very challenging. So for me, I'm going to try to ride it out as best I can. And I think having an open mind is probably the most important thing as we emerge from the lockdown. I just feel like, because of what's happened in the last 12 to 18 months, the number one thing that you can guarantee is there are no guarantees.
Yeah.
I just think preparing for the unexpected is probably the most healthy thing that we can do as business owners. I mean, who knows what our clients and our customers are going to need? Who knows what the economic sort of setting is going to be? We just don't know.
Lee, I think you're spot on. I mean, we've been working or gaining value from a company called Reloom, and essentially they explain the difference between endurance and resilience. And I think you've got like a resilience mindset rather than an endurance mindset, a resilient mindset, which is about being able to bounce back where appropriate, but also absorb the challenges as they come. And having that open mind approach, I think, is really good.
And I'm not seeking to sidestep your question, but I think, and I don't want to be cliche, but I think we have to expect the unexpected. And as cliche as that sounds, I really think that mindset and attitude will be the most productive way of entering the next 6 month period. Because if you strategize for certain things specifically, or if you strategize for certain goals or organizational objectives, there's a good chance that those will be impacted by factors in the economy that are just beyond our control. So, in a way, I'm really seeking not to try and control something I just don't feel I will be able to control. So why even try? I think keep an open mind, expect the unexpected, be agile, prepare to be agile, be ready to adapt and move. And I think you have to tighten up the organization, make sure that you're not baggy with costs, and also just maybe focus on welcoming back the employees as they come back into the organization. Like I said before, our company and so many companies have ostracized their employees. So we have to right that wrong in a way. We have to put that right and make sure that staff feel once again included and appreciated.
I mean, Lee, I think you've got a great company, obviously a great brand. I've spent a bit of time with you and understand your DNA and your proposition. So, I wish you all the best, and I know that whatever the future throws, you're going to be able to deal with it and thrive. So thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck with everything. Cheers, Lee.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob.